Jake Morrison stared at the screen in disbelief. The dots on the radar were too big to be asteroids and moving too fast to be natural. He had been running the Deep Space Research Station Galileo 7 for 3 years now, and he had never seen anything like this. "Lisa, come look at this," he called to his chief science officer. Lisa Park was bent over her computer studying mineral samples from the asteroid belt they were orbiting. She looked up with tired eyes. "What is it now, Jake? Another equipment failure?" she asked, walking over to his station. "I wish it was that simple. Look at these readings. We have 12 massive objects heading straight for us. They are the size of battleships." Lisa's eyes went wide. She grabbed the edge of Jake's chair and leaned in closer to the screen. The dots were getting bigger by the minute. Could they be Earth ships? "Maybe the military is running some kind of secret operation out here," she said, but her voice didn't sound convinced. Jake shook his head. "No Earth ship is that big, and we would have gotten a message by now. Tony, get over here." Tony Rodriguez, their security chief, was checking the station's defense systems in the corner. He was a big man with scars on his hands from his time in the military. He walked over with heavy steps. "What's the problem, boss?" Tony asked. "We have visitors. Big ones. And they are not from Earth." Tony looked at the screen and whistled low. "Those are warships, no doubt about it. How long until they get here?" "At their current speed, about 20 minutes, Jake said. Amy Chen, their communications specialist, suddenly spoke up from her station across the room. "Jake, I'm picking up a transmission. It's not in any Earth language. The signal is strong and coming from those ships." "Put it on speaker," Jake ordered. Static filled the room, then a voice spoke in perfect English. The voice was deep and cold, with an accent that sounded like nothing any of them had heard before. "Human station. This is Commander Zethak of the HFY Empire. You are in violation of our territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The 4 humans looked at each other in shock. Jake was the first to recover. He walked over to Amy's station and took the microphone. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Research Station Galileo 7. We are peaceful scientists studying the asteroid belt. We mean no harm to anyone." The alien voice came back quickly. "Your intentions are irrelevant, human. This system belongs to the HFY Empire now. You have 10 minutes to evacuate your station and flee. Any ships that remain will be destroyed." Jake felt his jaw tighten. Behind him, Lisa was already pulling up the evacuation procedures on her computer. Tony was checking their small shuttle bay to see how many people they could fit in the escape pods. "Sir," Amy whispered, "I'm reading 47 people on this station. We only have room for 22 in our escape vessels." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Most of the people on Galileo 7 were scientists, not soldiers. They were here to study rocks and metals, not fight wars. But he couldn't leave half of them behind to die. He picked up the microphone again. "Commander Zethak, we need more time. We have civilians here who cannot fight. Give us an hour to evacuate everyone safely. You have 10 minutes, human. Use them wisely. We can't evacuate everyone in 10 minutes. It's impossible." There was silence for a long moment. Then the alien voice came back, and this time it sounded puzzled. "Human, why do you argue? Why do you not simply flee? Your weapons are weak, your ships are small. You cannot win against us. Why do you not run?" Jake looked around the room at his people. Lisa was still working on evacuation plans, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Tony was loading weapons that Jake knew would be useless against ships that size. Amy was trying to send a distress signal to Earth, even though help was weeks away. These people trusted him. They looked to him for leadership. He had been a soldier once before he became a scientist. He knew what it meant to leave people behind. He had sworn he would never do it again. "Because we don't know how," Jake said into the microphone. "What do you mean, human?" "I mean, we don't run when people need us. We don't leave our friends to die. And we don't give up just because someone bigger than us tells us to." The alien was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice sounded different. Still cold, but now there was something else in it. Confusion. "This is foolish, human. We have conquered 47 star systems. Every species runs when they see our ships. Every species surrenders when they hear our demands. It is the smart thing to do. Why are you different? Jake looked at Tony, who was now handing out pulse rifles to the scientists. Most of them had never held a weapon before, but they were taking them anyway. Lisa had stopped working on evacuation plans and was instead studying the schematics of the station, looking for ways to defend it. Maybe because we're not smart, Jake said. Or maybe because there are some things more important than being smart. You will die, human. All of you will die. Probably, Jake agreed. But we won't die running. The transmission cut off. On the screen, the alien ships were getting closer. Jake could see them now with the naked eye through the station's windows. They were black and angular, like giant metal sharks swimming through space. Well, Tony said, checking his rifle. Looks like we're going to have a fight. Lisa looked up from her computer. I've sealed off the civilian sections and activated the emergency barriers. It won't stop them, but it might slow them down. Amy was still working at her station. I got a message out to Earth. They know what's happening here. Jake nodded. Good. At least someone will know we tried. The alien ships were close now. Close enough that Jake could see weapon ports opening along their sides. In a few minutes, the shooting would start. He had been asked a simple question. Why don't you run? The answer was simple too, even if the aliens couldn't understand it. Humans didn't run because they couldn't live with themselves if they did. They stayed and fought because leaving meant letting evil win. They faced death because some things were worth dying for. The first laser blast hit the station's outer hull. The lights flickered, and the floor shook under their feet. Here we go, Jake said. The laser blast tore through the outer hull of Galileo 7 like paper. Jake Morrison grabbed the nearest wall as the station shook violently. Emergency lights flashed red, and alarms screamed through the corridors. Damage report, Jake shouted, over the noise. Lisa Park was already at her console, her fingers moving fast over the controls. Hull breach in Section 7. Emergency seals are holding, but we lost our main communication array. Another blast hit the station, this one closer to the command center. The lights went out for 3 seconds before the backup power kicked in. They're not trying to destroy us, Tony Rodriguez said, watching the attack pattern on his screen. They're trying to scare us into surrendering. Jake nodded. The aliens could have blown up the station with their first shot if they wanted to. Instead, they were hitting non-essential areas, making noise, and showing their power. Amy, can you still reach Earth? Jake asked. Amy Chen was working frantically at her damaged station. The main array is gone, but I can use the emergency beacon. It's weak, but it might work. Do it. Tell them we need help. As Amy worked, Jake looked out the window at the alien ships. They had stopped firing, and were now just floating there, waiting. He could see smaller ships leaving the big vessels, heading toward the station. Boarding parties, Tony said grimly. They want to take us alive. How many people do we have who can fight? Jake asked. 12 security guards, including me, and maybe 6 scientists who have military training. Jake did the math quickly. 18. Fighters against an unknown number of alien soldiers. It was not good odds. What about the civilians? They're locked down in the safe zones. Dr. Ward is with them, keeping them calm. Jake remembered Dr. Helen Ward, the xenobiologist who had joined their mission just 2 months ago. She was smart and tough, exactly the kind of person they needed, right now. The first alien shuttle attached itself to the station's docking bay with a loud clang. Through the security cameras, Jake could see armored figures moving inside the small ship. They're coming, Tony said. What's the plan? Jake thought quickly. The station was big, with lots of corridors and rooms. The aliens would expect them to meet them at the docking bay, fighting in the open where superior numbers would win. We don't fight them where they expect, Jake said. We make them come to us. Use the maintenance tunnels, the storage rooms, anywhere tight and dark. Make them pay for every step. Tony smiled. It was not a nice smile. Guerrilla warfare, I like it. The docking bay doors opened and the aliens stepped onto the station. Jake watched them on the security cameras. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their armor was black and covered in sharp angles. They moved with confidence, like they had done this many times before. 12 of them in the first group, Tony reported. More shuttles are coming. Jake picked up a pulse rifle. Let's go welcome our guests. They moved through the station using paths the aliens wouldn't know about. Jake led Lisa and Amy through the upper maintenance tunnels while Tony took his security team through the lower levels. The first alien group moved slowly through the corridors, checking each room. They were being careful, but they were also being predictable. Jake had studied the station's layout for 3 years. He knew every shortcut, every hiding place. There, Lisa whispered, pointing through a grate in the floor. 4 aliens directly below us. Jake aimed his rifle through the grate and fired. The pulse blast hit the lead alien in the shoulder, spinning him around. Before the others could react, Lisa and Amy were firing too. 2 aliens went down. The other 2 dove for cover, shouting in their strange language. Move, Jake said. They crawled through the tunnel to the next position. Down in the lower levels, Tony was having his own success. He had positioned his people in the storage rooms, along the main corridor. When the aliens walked past, they found themselves in a crossfire. Got 3 more. Tony's voice came through Jake's earpiece. But they're learning. They're not walking into our traps anymore. Jake wasn't surprised. These aliens had conquered 47 star systems. They were soldiers, not fools. They would adapt quickly. More shuttles arrived. Soon there were 30 aliens on the station, then 40. Jake's small force was being outnumbered badly. Jake, Amy said quietly. I'm getting a transmission from the alien commander. Jake nodded. Put it through. The cold voice filled the corridor. Human commander, you fight well for such a primitive species, but you cannot win. Surrender now, and we will let your people live as slaves. Continue fighting, and we will kill everyone. Jake looked at Lisa and Amy. Both women were dirty and tired, but their eyes were determined. Through his earpiece, he could hear Tony and his people still fighting in the lower levels. This is Jake Morrison, he said into his communicator. I have a question for you, alien. Ask. In all those 47 systems you conquered, how many of them actually fought back? There was a pause. Some fought, they all lost. No, I mean really fought. Not just a few quick battles before surrendering. I mean fought like they meant it. The pause was longer this time. Few species are so foolish as to continue fighting. When defeat is certain, Jake smiled. That's what I thought. You've been winning because people run away, but we're not running, are we? You are dying instead. How is this better? Because dying means we don't have to live as slaves. And because every alien we kill here is one less alien you have to conquer. Other people. The transmission cut off. A few seconds later, laser blasts started hitting the station again, but this time they were aimed at the sections where Jake's people were hiding. They're getting angry, Lisa said. Good, Jake replied. Angry people make mistakes. Through the station's communication system, Jake heard Tony's voice. Jake, we got a problem. I'm reading new ships on the scanner, big ones, coming fast. Jake felt his heart sink. More aliens were coming, they were already outnumbered. If more enemy ships arrived, it would be over. But then Amy was smiling. Jake, those aren't alien ships, they're human. It's Captain Ray Foster and the patrol fleet. Jake looked out the window and saw them. 3 Earth ships, small compared to the alien vessels but moving fast and determined. As he watched, they opened fire on the alien fleet. This is Captain Foster, a voice said over the radio. Sorry, we're late to the party, Jake. We got Amy's message and came as fast as we could. Jake felt something he hadn't felt in hours. Hope. Ray, you beautiful fool, Jake said. You're outnumbered 6-1. Yeah, well, Captain Foster replied. We heard you were having a good fight down there, didn't want to miss it. The space battle began. Jake watched as Earth fighters swarmed around the alien ships like angry bees. The aliens had been expecting easy victory, not a real fight. On the station, the alien boarding parties were confused. Their support ships were under attack. Their easy conquest was turning into a war. Now we press the advantage, Jake said. Tony, are you ready for a counterattack? Been ready for an hour, Tony replied. Jake picked up his rifle. Then let's show these aliens what humans do when you back them into a corner. The real fight was just beginning. The counterattack caught the aliens by surprise. Jake Morrison led his team through the maintenance tunnels while Tony Rodriguez hit them from behind. In 10 minutes, they had captured 5 alien soldiers and pushed the rest back to the docking bay. The captured aliens were different from what Jake had expected. Up close, they looked scared. Their gray skin was pale and their forearms shook as Tony's men tied them up. "Put them in the storage room," Jake ordered. "Post guards, but don't hurt them. We need information." Dr. Helen Ward arrived 20 minutes later. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who studied alien life forms. Jake had called her from the safe zone to look at their prisoners. "Fascinating," she said, walking around the tied-up aliens. "Their bone structure is lighter than ours, built for speed, not strength. And look at their hands. 6 fingers, perfect for delicate work." One of the aliens looked up at her and spoke in broken English. You study us like animals." Helen knelt down in front of him. "What's your name?" The alien hesitated. Was Sub-Commander Vethal." "Why did you attack our station, Vethal?" "Orders. The Empire expands. We take territory." Jake joined the conversation. "How many species have you conquered?" Vethal's eyes went wide. "Many, dozens. They all surrender when they see our ships." "All of them?" Helen asked. "Yes, always. Species see our power, they run or surrender. Smart species live. Stupid species die quick." Jake and Helen looked at each other. This was important information. Lieutenant Casey Brooks arrived from Captain Foster's ship. She was young but smart, with training in intelligence work. Jake had asked Foster to send his best people to help question the prisoners. "What have you learned?" Casey asked. "They've never fought a real war," Helen said. "They win by scaring people into giving up." Casey sat down across from Vethal. "Tell me about your military training." The alien looked confused. "Training? How do you learn? To fight, what tactics do you use?" We show up, we demand surrender, they surrender. Sometimes we must fire our weapons to prove we are serious, but fighting? Real fighting, this is rare." Casey made notes on her tablet. "What about your weapons? Your armor?" "Made for intimidation, to look scary, to make enemies afraid." Jake felt pieces of a puzzle falling into place. "What happens when someone doesn't surrender immediately?" Vethal was quiet for a long moment. This does not happen often. When it does, we send more ships, bigger displays of power. Eventually, they see they cannot win. But what if they keep fighting anyway?" Helen pressed. The alien looked genuinely confused. "Why would they do that? Fighting when you cannot win is madness." Casey looked up from her notes. "Jake, I think I understand. Their whole empire is built on bluff. They've never faced anyone who wouldn't back down." Meanwhile, Mike Turner, the station's chief engineer, was in his workshop studying pieces of alien equipment that Tony's team had recovered. Mike was a quiet man who loved taking things apart to see how they worked. "Jake, you need to see this," Mike called over the radio. Jake found Mike in the workshop, holding an alien weapon. The engineer's face was excited. "This isn't as advanced as it looks," Mike said. "Sure, it's powerful, but the design is simple, almost primitive, like they never had to improve it." "What do you mean?" Mike pointed to the weapon's components. "When you're in a real fight, you need reliable equipment that works in bad conditions. This thing would break if you dropped it too hard. It's made to look scary, not to be practical." Jake picked up another piece of alien gear. "What about their armor?" "Same thing. Looks impressive, but it's designed for parades, not battles. The joints are weak. The power system is inefficient. They've never had to make gear that could handle real combat." Nina Cole, the station's medic, had been treating both human and alien wounded. She walked into the workshop with more information. "Jake, I've been examining the alien prisoners who were injured. Their biology is interesting." "How so?" Nina pulled up her medical scans on a tablet. "They're physically weaker than us. Their muscles are designed for fine motor control, not strength. And their nervous system, They feel pain more intensely than humans do. Meaning? Meaning they're not built for fighting. They're built for precise work, maybe crafting or technology, but not warfare. Jake was starting to see the full picture. The Kethvar Empire had grown powerful not through military might, but through psychological warfare. They had conquered species who were too afraid to fight back. Casey Brooks returned from questioning more prisoners. Jake, you're not going to believe this. I asked them about their most difficult conquest. What did they say? A species called the Murtak. It took them 3 whole months to surrender. Jake stared at her. 3 months? That's their longest war. Gets better. The Murtak didn't actually fight. They just hid in their cities and wouldn't come out. The Kethvar had to wait for them to get hungry. Mike laughed. So their toughest enemy was a species that played hide and seek. It explains everything, Helen said, joining the group. They've built an empire on the assumption that everyone will run away. Their technology, their tactics, their entire military structure. It's all designed for intimidation, not actual fighting. Jake felt a cold satisfaction. Which means they have no idea how to handle us. Right. We're the first species they've met that doesn't care about their threats. We're fighting back and they don't know what to do. Casey looked at her notes. There's more. Their command structure is rigid. Officers don't make decisions without orders from above. They're not trained to adapt to new situations. And, Nina added, they're not used to taking casualties. Every wounded alien I've treated is in shock. Not from their injuries, but from the fact that they got hurt at all. Mike held up a piece of alien technology he had been working on. I figured out how their shields work, and I think I can build something to get through them. Jake smiled. For the first time since the attack began, he felt like they had a real chance. The aliens weren't invincible. They were bullies who had never met anyone willing to stand up to them. Get back to work on that, Mike. Casey, send everything you've learned to Captain Foster. He needs to know what he's fighting. Through the window, Jake could see the space battle continuing. The human ships were smaller and fewer, but they were holding their own. The alien fleet seemed confused, making mistakes. Just then, Amy Chen called from the communication center. Jake, I'm getting a transmission from the alien commander. Put it through. The familiar cold voice filled the room, but now Jake could hear something new in it. Uncertainty. Human commander. You have fought longer than expected. Your losses are heavy. Why do you not surrender? Why do you continue this madness? Jake picked up the communicator. He knew exactly what to say. Because we're learning about you, Commander. And what we've learned is that you're not as tough as you pretend to be. There was a long silence. When the alien spoke again, his voice was different. Worried. What do you mean, human? Jake smiled. I mean, you've never fought anyone who fights back, and now you're scared. The transmission cut off immediately. Now, Jake said to his team, let's show them what scared should really feel like. 3 days after the first attack, everything changed. Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Galileo 7, watching the biggest fleet he had ever seen drop out of hyperspace. 50 human warships appeared near the station, led by a massive battleship. This is Admiral Beth Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. A strong female voice came over the radio. Jake Morrison, are you still alive down there? Jake grabbed the communicator with a huge smile. Admiral Stone, you are a beautiful sight. We're still here and still fighting. Good. We got your data about the aliens. Very interesting stuff. We're going to try something new. The Admiral's ship, the Defiant, moved closer to the station. Jake could see smaller ships launching from its bays. These weren't normal fighters. They were boarding shuttles. Captain Ray Foster's voice came through on a private channel. Jake, you need to see what the Admiral brought. She's got Colonel Jack Hayes with her. Jake knew that name. Colonel Hayes was famous for his work in the Outer Colony Wars. He specialized in taking enemy ships intact. Jake, Admiral Stone said, we're not going to fight these aliens the way they expect. We're going to board their ships and take them. According to your intelligence, they've never dealt with humans fighting on their own vessels. Jake looked out at the alien fleet. They had pulled back when the human reinforcements arrived, but they were still there, waiting. What do you need? From us, Admiral? Your engineer, Mike Turner. We want him to look at the alien technology we captured from their border raids, and we need Dr. Ward to help us understand how these aliens think. Within an hour, Mike and Dr. Helen Ward were aboard the Defiant. Jake stayed on the station with Tony Rodriguez and the others, watching as the human fleet prepared for something that had never been tried before. Dr. Paul Green, the fleet's weapons specialist, had been working with Mike's data. Through the radio, Jake could hear them discussing their plans. The alien shields are designed to stop energy weapons, Dr. Green explained. But they're weak against physical impact. We can punch through them with old-fashioned explosive charges. Colonel Hayes was studying the layout of alien ships that Mike had mapped from their captured equipment. Their ships are built for intimidation, not defense. Wide corridors, lots of empty space to look impressive. Perfect for boarding actions. What? About their crew? Admiral Stone asked. Dr. Ward's voice came through clearly. Based on our interrogations, they panic when things don't go according to plan. Their officers are trained to give orders, not to think for themselves. If we can create chaos, they won't know how to respond. Jake listened to the planning with growing excitement. The humans weren't just going to fight the aliens, they were going to beat them at their own game. The attack began at dawn. But instead of the massive space battle the aliens expected, something else happened. Small human ships approached the alien fleet, moving slowly and deliberately. The alien commander sent the usual message. Human fleet, you are outnumbered. Surrender now or be destroyed. Admiral Stone's response was not what anyone expected. Alien commander, you have 10 minutes to surrender your ships. After that, we're coming to take them. Jake could almost hear the confusion in the alien's voice. You threaten us? Your ships are small. We have superior firepower. Yes, you do, the Admiral agreed. But firepower doesn't matter if you're too scared to use it. Before the alien could respond, the human boarding shuttles launched. They moved fast, using the same tactics Jake's people had used on the station. Hit and run, strike where the enemy doesn't expect it. The first shuttle attached itself to an alien cruiser. Colonel Hayes led the boarding party personally. Jake watched on his screen as the humans cut through the alien hull and poured inside. Boarding Party 1 is inside, Hayes reported. Meeting light resistance, the aliens are retreating to their command center. More shuttles hit other ships. Within minutes, human soldiers were fighting inside 6 different alien vessels. But this wasn't like the fighting on the station. Here, the humans were the attackers. They moved fast and hit hard, using weapons that Dr. Green had designed specifically to work inside alien ships. Boarding Party 3 has taken the engine room, came a report. Aliens are surrendering. They're asking why we don't just destroy their ship. Jake laughed. The aliens still didn't understand. Humans didn't want to destroy. They wanted to win. Sam Blake, the ace pilot Jake had heard about, was leading the fighter squadrons. His job was to keep the alien fighters busy while the boarding parties worked. This is too easy, Sam reported. The alien pilots are good at formations and looking scary, but they can't dogfight. It's like they've never been in a real air battle. On the station, Amy Chen was monitoring alien communications. Jake, you need to hear this. The aliens are panicking. Their officers are calling for reinforcements, but they're also arguing about whether to retreat. Jake picked up his communicator. Admiral, the aliens are breaking down. Their command structure is falling apart. I can see that, Admiral Stone replied. Colonel Hayes just captured an alien admiral. The man is in complete shock. He keeps asking why we don't just blow up his ship. Tony Rodriguez was watching the battle through the station's telescopes. Jake, look at this. Some of the alien ships are just sitting there, not moving. I think their crews are too scared to fight. Jake looked and saw that Tony was right. Several alien vessels had stopped firing and were just floating in space. Through the radio, he could hear their desperate calls for orders. Human fleet. The alien commander's voice came through again. But now it sounded different, weak, frightened. We do not understand your tactics. Why do you not fight as civilized beings fight? Admiral Stone's response was cold and hard. Because civilized beings don't attack research stations full of scientists. But you are taking our ships. You are capturing our people. This is not how war is fought. Really? The Admiral asked. Then how is war fought? There was a long pause. You show power. The weaker side surrenders. Everyone knows this. Jake couldn't help himself. He grabbed his communicator. Alien Commander, this is Jake Morrison. You asked me why we don't run. Now I have a question for you. What question, human? Why aren't you running? The silence that followed was the sweetest sound Jake had ever heard. Colonel Hayes reported in. Admiral, we've taken 8 alien ships. Their crews are surrendering without a fight. I've never seen anything like it. Dr. Ward's voice came through the radio. Admiral, the aliens I'm interviewing are in shock. They keep saying this isn't how conquests work. They're terrified because we're not following their rules. Jake looked out at the battle. Human ships were swarming over the alien fleet like ants taking apart a picnic. The aliens were shooting, but their fire was wild and desperate. Admiral, Jake said, I think we're winning. No, Jake, Admiral Stone replied. We've already won. They just don't know it yet. As if to prove her point, the alien commander spoke again. His voice was no longer cold and confident. It was the voice of a being who had never been truly afraid before. Human fleet, we ask for terms of surrender. Jake smiled. The hunters had become the hunted, and the aliens were learning what it felt like to be prey. The alien surrender came too easily. Jake Morrison knew it even as he watched the Kethvar ships power down their weapons. Admiral Beth Stone was thinking the same thing. This isn't over, she said over the radio. A species that conquered 47 star systems doesn't give up after one battle. She was right. 3 hours after the surrender, Amy Chen picked up massive hyperspace signatures. Admiral, we have incoming ships, lots of them. Jake looked at his screens and felt his blood turn cold. The new fleet was enormous. Over 200 alien ships, including vessels twice the size of anything they had seen before. This is Supreme Commander Vorthak of the Kethvar Empire, a new voice said. It was deeper and colder than the previous alien commander. I come to end this embarrassment, Admiral Stone responded immediately. This is Admiral Stone. We demand you honor the surrender of your advance fleet. There is no surrender, the Supreme Commander said. Commander Zethak exceeded his authority. The Empire does not yield to primitive species. General Marcus Bell arrived with the main human fleet just as the new alien ships moved into attack position. Jake had heard stories about General Bell. He had never lost a battle in 30 years of fighting. Admiral Stone, the general said, I'm taking command. All ships, prepare for final engagement. But Jake could see this was different. The new alien ships moved with purpose and discipline. Their formations were tight and professional. These weren't the same aliens who had panicked before. Jake, Dr. Helen Ward called from the Defiant, the aliens we captured are terrified. They say Vorthak commands the Empire's elite forces. These are the real soldiers. The Supreme Commander's voice filled the radio again. Humans, you have caused us much trouble, but trouble ends now. You will surrender or we will destroy every human ship and station in this system. General Bell's response was calm and steady. Supreme Commander, you've made a mistake. What mistake, human? You think we're the same species your people conquered before. But we're not. We're the species that fights back, and when you fight us, you don't get surrender. You get war until one of us is extinct. Jake felt a chill at those words. This wasn't just about the research station anymore. This had become something bigger. The battle began with the aliens attacking in massive waves. But the humans had learned from the previous fight. They used the captured alien ships against their former owners, confusing the enemy targeting systems. Colonel Jack Hayes was now commanding a captured alien cruiser with a human crew. Their own ships work better when humans operate them, he reported. We can push these engines past what the aliens thought was safe. The space battle was brutal. Both sides took heavy losses. But something strange was happening. The more the fighting continued, the more desperate the aliens became. Jake, Amy said from her station, I'm monitoring alien communications. Their officers are arguing. Some want to retreat. Supreme Commander Vorthak's voice cut through the battle noise. Human General, why do you continue this futile fight? We outnumber you 3-1. General Bell was commanding from the bridge of his flagship. Because that's what humans do. We fight. But you cannot win. Logic demands you. Surrender. Logic? Jake grabbed his communicator. He had heard enough. Supreme Commander, this is Jake Morrison from Research Station Galileo 7. The human who started this madness. You should have run when we first arrived. You keep saying that word, run. I don't think you understand what it means to humans. Explain. Human. Jake looked around at his people. Tony Rodriguez was still at his post, coordinating station defenses. Lisa Park was helping repair damaged systems. Amy Chen was managing communications for the entire human fleet. They had been fighting for days, but none of them looked like they were ready to quit. When you corner a wild animal, Jake said, most of them run away, but some of them attack. Humans are the ones that attack. You speak of madness. No, I speak of survival. You've built an empire by scaring people into giving up. But we don't give up. Ever. Even when we should. Dr. Paul Green's new weapons were turning the battle. His modified torpedoes were cutting through alien shields like they weren't there. The captured alien technology was being used against its creators. Supreme Commander, General Bell said, I want you to understand something. This isn't just a battle anymore. You've made it personal. You attacked our people, you threatened our children, you made us angry. And, the alien asked, and angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The tide of battle was turning. Human ships were swarming through the alien formations, taking ships faster than they could be replaced. The aliens' superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate their attacks. Sam Blake led a squadron of fighters in a desperate attack on the alien flagship. Going after their command ship, he reported. If we can take out their leader, this ends. But Supreme Commander Vorthak had one more surprise. His flagship began to charge weapons that Jake had never seen before. Planet killer, Dr. Ward said in horror, reading the alien ship's energy signatures. They're going to destroy everything. The alien Supreme Commander's voice was now filled with rage. If we cannot have this system, then no one will. I will. Destroy your station, your ships, your people, all of it. Jake felt ice in his stomach. The aliens were going to commit genocide rather than lose. But General Bell was already moving. All ships ramming speed. Target the alien flagship. General, that's suicide, Admiral Stone protested. Maybe, but it's also victory. Jake watched in amazement as the entire human fleet turned toward the massive alien ship. They weren't running away from the planet killer weapon. They were running toward it. Human General, the Supreme Commander said, and for the first time, his voice showed real fear. You cannot be serious. You will destroy yourselves. To stop you from destroying others? Yes, we will. The alien was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Broken. I do not understand you. In all our conquests, no species has ever. Why do you not run, human? Jake answered for all of them. Because when you back a human into a corner, you don't get surrender. You get something that will hunt you across the galaxy until one of us is extinct. The Supreme Commander's next words shocked everyone. Stop. Please, we yield. The alien flagship powered down its planet-killer weapon. Across the alien fleet, ships began shutting down their weapons and raising surrender flags. Why? General, Bell asked. The Supreme Commander's voice was barely a whisper. Because you are not prey. You are predators. And we have never faced predators before. Jake smiled as he watched alien ships surrendering across the system. The species that had conquered 47 worlds had finally met something they couldn't intimidate, couldn't scare, couldn't break. Amy, Jake said to his communications officer, send a message to Earth. Tell them the Kethvar Empire is finished. And tell them that anyone else who wants to threaten human space had better think twice. What should I say the reason is? Amy asked. Jake looked out at the captured alien fleet. at the human ships that had refused to run even when facing impossible odds, at his own people who had chosen to fight rather than flee. Tell them it's because we're human, and humans don't run. The greatest empire in the galaxy had fallen because they asked the wrong question. They wanted to know why humans don't run. They should have asked what happens when you make humans angry. Now they knew.